Well, I'm a country girl. Let's start with that. My father worked most of his life at Worthy Park, which is sugar estate in St. Catherine in the Vale of Loidas, which is very near to Yorktown. So we grew up there. I was one of 3 children, the third, I'm the youngest, and I have 2 older brothers. Everybody in the valley knew, or around, knew who you were and who your parents were, I guess, which is more important. And it was, I guess, like old-time country time. You know, you felt safe. Your parents didn't worry about you. My father was very influential in my life, in encouraging me. He certainly made me feel that I could be anything that I wanted to be, as long as I put in the work. And he told us, the 3 of us, that he wouldn't have anything to leave when he died, but that he'd make sure that we had an education. I remember my older brother saying to my father once, "Why is he wasting his money educating a girl? Because she's only going to get married and have children." So, and my father would have none of that. That's the kind of person he was. Probably a man beyond his time, because he certainly was more encouraging in relation to a woman having her own life and not being dependent on a man. I went to university and did chemistry, maths and physics, and ended up with a degree in chemistry. So after university, I knew that chemistry wasn't what I wanted to spend my life doing in that field. And I was encouraged to go into banking, and my mother told me she thought that would be a very poor choice, because as far as she was concerned, they could place you anywhere over the island. You're never necessarily secure in relation to where you were, and that at the end of each month you worked endless hours. So she did not encourage me to do that. I had thought when I went to university that I would want to do computer science, but that was mostly at that time provided as a master's. And when I was exposed to the computers I had at the time up at university, I figured it was not for me. There were these large computers, and you did the data entry with the punching of the holes and stuff. It was not what my imagination had allowed me to think it would be. So, and I did apply to NCR then as a job, but I don't remember getting an offer. And there was a job fair at which the accounting firms were, both Pricewaterhouse and KPMG. But it wasn't KPMG then, it was Mitchell & Co. And in talking to people, they said that Pricewaterhouse was the firm to go to when you were, after you had graduated, yeah? But that Pete's, as it was called then, was where you should go while you were studying. It was a much better place to actually study at. And so I applied, and I got a job, and I stayed there for more than 40 years. They actually sent me, I got a scholarship and went to the UK, and I actually finished my final exams in the UK. It was a wonderful place to work. There are lots of things that I think I would have been proud of and to be able to put as an accomplishment. But the thing that sticks most in my mind was a very difficult situation that we were put in relation to a client, which was Carreras and Cigarette Company of Jamaica, who received an assessment from the tax department. And I was in tax at that time. I was in charge of the tax department, and the assessment was because of intercompany loans, and the commissioner decided that they were going to treat the loans as fictitious and artificial, and we raised an assessment of them at that time, which was about 6 billion Jamaican dollars. So it was long. They lost the case at the Revenue Court, and then we won the case at the Privy Council. So it was very fulfilling, and especially since there were very few people who thought that we would have won. Early on, there were challenges, because at that time there were very few women in the profession. When I say few, comparatively, yeah. Now most of the graduates are women, but at that time it wasn't so. I remember clearly the first time that a female was appointed a manager and one of the audit managers, because all the persons of manager level and above were men. A lot of them were expatriates. So it was in that kind of situation that you found yourself. And I found out that after I was there about a year, the recruits that they were doing who had accounts as a major were being offered more than I was being paid. And I went and I said to them, I really didn't think that was fair, because a year's experience must be better than what they were learning out of the book. And I did. That was the first battle I won. And there were many more after that, but more with clients rather than the persons at KPMG themselves. It's wonderful to be recognized by your peers. It was not something I expected, or was one of my aspirations. It came out of the blue to me, and in that way, it's meaningful. Other persons felt that what you did was useful or admirable or worthwhile. If somebody was to ask me if they were to go into the accounting profession, I'd tell them to go for it. It's a great profession, as long as you're willing to put in the work, that you treat people fairly, and that always be ethical in everything that you do. If people were to look at my career and take away from it that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish with hard work, it's a pleasure to be able to help people, whether professionally or otherwise, and I hope that I can continue to do that for many years to come.